You're listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM, Clutch with Keon Rose. On Nooga Radio, NoogaRadio.com. Brian Kelly. A lot of excuses in his mouth as to why it is that Notre Dame went 4-8 last year. A lot of excuses. And I don't know if Brian Kelly believes that Notre Dame's going to be successful this year. He doesn't know. He's not certain. And so he's come up with all of these excuses as to why they're not going to be successful this year beforehand. And this is the genius of Brian Kelly, is that he's come up with his excuses on the front end. He has come up with his excuses before he needs excuses. It's actually really genius, because then you could just be like, told you. No, I told you it was already going to be hard for me to do. Right? Like, I'm not standing here telling you that it's going to be easy and then trying to figure out a way to back it up. And we saw this last year, by the way, with Butch Jones in Tennessee, that the hype train left the station for the Tennessee Volunteers. And Butch Jones started backpedaling before the season started, which I did not expect, because the team was talented, because the team had reached the maturation stage of the rebuild that Butch Jones came in here to do. Butch Jones came in here to bring Tennessee football back, and they reached the point where he could no longer go, well, this is a young football team, even though that's exactly what he said last year. Like, before the season even started and during the season, he ran out, well, we're young and we make mistakes. Like, nah, dude, this team is not young. This is a team filled with guys who are going to the NFL next year. This is not a young football team. The team's a very mature football team, in fact. You just got to close out games and finish them. But he was ready with the excuses already. And it's interesting because Brian Kelly's doing the same thing, only Brian Kelly can't get away with these excuses because Brian Kelly is at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is on an even bigger stage than Tennessee. Right? Like, Notre Dame is a non-conference school. It doesn't have a conference, right? They play against the ACC, but they don't have a conference. They do what they want. They're football royalty. And we expect Notre Dame to be good every year. This is unlike other schools. We expect Notre Dame to be good every year, even in years where we really don't have the evidence that Notre Dame's going to be great. But when you look at some of their skill position players on paper, or you look at their quarterback on paper and go, yeah, this ought to be a really good football team, and then they don't win, and they haven't been winning that much under Brian Kelly, then you have to maybe temper expectations, but we never temper expectations, not for that school, not for that place. And Brian Kelly has taken a beating in the press based on the promise of victory at that school, right? Which is not his fault. He didn't promise the victory. People just expect them to win. And you see it happen a lot of places. Again, why I see another parallel between Notre Dame and Tennessee is that when Tennessee was supposed to win last year, there was a promise of victory that Butch Jones did not issue. Butch Jones was doing everything in his power to not promise W's. Like, he was doing everything in his power to say, look, we're going to take this 1 week at a time. I don't want to guarantee anything. I don't want to build up the hype any further than it was built. He did everything in his power to stop it, but the promises were already made, and they were already made by the media and the fans, because everybody's looking at the talent on this team and going, wow, we do have a talented team, though. We really ought to win a lot of these games, though. People feel that way, and then you have to deliver. Right? Like, it's not up to you. So Butch Jones tried to temper the expectations early last year. Brian Kelly trying to temper the expectations early this year with every single excuse in the book. Here's one of the things that Kelly said. He was talking to Matt Hayes of Bleacher Report. And what he said was, I bleeped up last year's team. I was the absent professor. I wasn't paying attention to the details that we needed. There were internal issues that if a guy is on it and he's doing his job as the head coach, he would have seen those things early. Right? So he partially takes the blame. It's like a half It's like a half apology, right? Like, yeah, I could have done a better job of keeping up with this stuff, but I had to do a lot of things internally. But the second week of the season, Notre Dame plays Georgia. They play the Bulldogs in South Bend. And here's one thing that I can promise you, right? People will accept excuses from a college coach, but for so long. And there are certain things that are unforgivable. Notre Dame is still considered to be a good football team, right? They were early in the season, they were considered a quality win. And then when it became apparent that they were going to be 4-8, then suddenly that win didn't wind up looking so quality if you beat Notre Dame early in the year. Texas beat Notre Dame to start the season, and then the quality of that win decreased as Notre Dame just lost game after game after game. If Georgia shows up and beats Notre Dame to death, right? Just bludgeons them. Then here's what's going to happen with Brian Kelly and his excuses. Get out. I mean, that's a guy that's on the hot seat if ever there was a guy on the hot seat. Because that school, with its tradition of winning, the fact that he really hasn't done that much winning there, the 4-8 record last year, the excuses that he's already come up with, that everyone has already identified as excuses. And he can blame recruiting. He can blame the fact that, yeah, the academic standard for Notre Dame is high. He can blame the fact that he's got to do fundraising and all of this stuff. Guess what? All coaches have to do fundraising. Guess what? You do not have the only school with a high academic standard. People have to fight to get into Stanford. People have to fight to get into Northwestern. These are tough schools to get into. People get into them. And those schools are pretty successful. Right? Like a lot of these schools you have to really fight to get into. That Stanford does not have to lower its academic expectations to get people in that school. This is why I think David Shaw is such a good coach over there. Because the academic standards are high. Good football players still find their way into Stanford. Stanford doesn't get the best of the best, but they're considered basically one of the best teams in the Pac-12 over there. Nobody wants to hear your excuses. Right? Like, people expect Georgia to be really good this year. People expect Notre Dame to be really good. If you lose to Georgia, I don't think people are going to have a problem with you, right? Like, that will be a tough game. But don't get stopped. Don't fail to show up entirely. Because we will look at the fact that you came with your excuses preloaded. Like, some people do not get to show up with the preloaded excuses. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. And that's where the difference is between Tennessee and Notre Dame, is I think the demand for Notre Dame to win is higher than the demand for Tennessee to win at this point. And Butch Jones can show up with some preloaded excuses. We've made preloaded excuses for Butch already, which he will gladly accept. The less pressure on him, the better. The less pressure you apply to Butch, the better. He loves that. He loves to be able to talk big without having the expectations of delivering. This is what I have noticed about Butch Jones. This is why Butch Jones speaks in cliches. And this is why it is a problem that Butch Jones speaks in cliches, because it allows him and it offers him the opportunity to speak big without having to deliver on any of those things, right? One of my favorite message boards to go on is volnation.com. Just Tennessee fans get together and just talk about Tennessee. And one of the threads in the blog, which is that was from last year, was that Butch Jones has so many cliches. How many cliches does Butch Jones run out there? Here, how many cliches? Here's one. How many times has Butch Jones said this? It starts with me. It starts with our coaches and players. It starts with everyone in our football program. And one fan questions, there's a lot of starting there. But where the hell does it end? Where does all of this end? Like, yeah, no, it all starts with you. Where does it end? Right? Here's one. Our goal is to get 1% better each and every day. 1% better each and every day. Well, okay, you've been the coach for what, 5 years now? How many thousands of percent better should you be at this particular juncture if you've been the head coach of a football team for 5 years and you get 1% better every single day? Things that Butch Jones has said. Brick by brick. He says, he mentions the maturation process constantly. You got the champions of life quote, obviously. Complementary football. He talks about players and the resiliency. Butch Jones likes to talk a big game. He talks a big game, but he doesn't want to actually be forced to deliver on it. There's some people that like pressure, that revel in pressure. And I'll be honest, most coaches do not like pressure. If you could live a pressure-free life, you would, right? Like, I'm not even going to go with coaches. I would go most people, most human beings on this planet do not like to accumulate as much pressure as they can. That's why there are certain jobs that some of us can't do, right? But one reason why I respect our troops an awful lot is because the pressure of being a soldier, not for me. Not for me. I can't do it. I don't have that in me. I don't have what it takes. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. People are depending on you. Your nation is depending on you. Your fellow soldiers are depending on you. I don't have that. Situations are dangerous that you wind up in. I don't have that. Not all of us are due for pressure situations. Some of us thrive in pressure, some of us don't. But some of us not only thrive in pressure, and not only do some of us simply wilt under the pressure, some of us really like it when there's no pressure whatsoever. I like a little pressure, right? I like it when something can go wrong. Understand, that is 100,000% what being on the radio is. It's not a lot of pressure, right? Like, if you mess up on the air, you're not going to die. It's not the end of the world, right? Like, if I say something, if I mispronounce something, if I give a wrong stat or figure, or I give an opinion that turns out to be woefully inaccurate, it's not the end of the world. I'm not that wrong often, though. I feel like I'm right a lot. But my point is, it's not the end of the world if I'm wrong. There's a little bit of pressure. If I suddenly ran out of things to say, yeah, that's a problem. Obviously, I will lose my job. If I say a swear word, that's a problem. I will lose my job. If I encourage something that most of American society is against, and I keep pushing the envelope on that, I could lose my job. There's a lot of situations in which I could find myself out of work. I like that level of pressure. I like that being the zone. There are people that love no pressure whatsoever, right? Brian Kelly and Butch Jones want there to be no pressure whatsoever. None. I mean, they happy as clams, the two of them, if there's no pressure on them at all. This is how you wind up showing up and giving excuses before before the season's even started. You start giving excuses so that some of that pressure can alleviate itself, right? Like, Tennessee should have beaten South Carolina. Butch Jones said that Jalen Hurts' whining cost them the game. No. It was poor coaching that cost them the game. Right? You can blame injuries. You blame starting slow, which as a head coach is your job. You can blame the offensive coordinator. You blame the defensive coordinator. You now have a new strength and conditioning coach because you blame the last strength and conditioning coach. To his eternal credit, he hasn't blamed the referees every game, so that's pretty nice. But it doesn't make any sense because there's a job that has quite a bit of pressure in it. It's called college football coach. Like, if you didn't want a job with pressure, why did you pick this one? If you are so adverse to pressure, if you want everything to be easy, you don't want the media to get on your back, why did you pick this job? Nick Saban puts pressure on himself, right? Like all the time. And nobody in the SEC has more pressure than that guy. He's got a culture of winning to consistently perpetuate. Nick Saban doesn't get to have back-to-back 8-4 seasons because people start wondering what's wrong. Now, you'd never fire Nick Saban over that, but you'd start to wonder, well, what's wrong? Is he losing his touch? Those questions will be raised. Those questions will be asked. He's got a ton of pressure. He handles it. He takes care of it all the time. He fights the media on it all the time. I'm not questioning the demeanor of Brian Kelly or Butch Jones for this job, but I do have to ask the question. If you wanted a job with no pressure, why did you choose this one? And how do I know you want a job with like no pressure? Because you are doing things to alleviate the pressure on the front end. You are doing things to hide the fact that, yeah, your football team went 4-8 last year if you're Brian Kelly. You have no idea why. You have no answers for it, and you cannot guarantee that this year you're not 4-8 again. You are running excuses out there. Butch Jones, you went 8-4 last season. You were supposed to win the division. It slipped between your fingers. Your team may be less talented than last year's team, and you're not sure how good they are. You are trying to temper expectations. You are trying to lower them as much as humanly possible. And the thing is, people are letting him get away with it because I don't know if Tennessee fans know what a better option is. Is there a better option than Butch Jones available? You cannot run to replace a guy. You cannot run to fire a guy without having a replacement in mind. Someone who will actually win you football games and at the same time meet all the ideals that Tennessee football fans want to have for their football team. But someone who goes out there, gets after it, and wins, right? Who doesn't get to these slow starts, who is aggressive in the beginnings of games, who's aggressive all season long, who doesn't blame others when things go wrong. I think that's fair. And it's insane to me that this is the job that he's doing if trying to weasel your way out of pressure is something that you're inclined to do on a fairly regular basis. They're not the only coaches that do it, but to me, they're the highest profile guys that do it because there is an expectation of winning at Notre Dame, and there is an expectation of winning at Tennessee, especially in the East where it's weak, where you ought to really, when you're talented, you really ought to take this thing by the horns, right? Like, we know that Florida's talented this year. When we suspect you're the most talented team in the East, you ought to win the East. When we suspect you're the most talented team in the West, you're Alabama. I mean, that's it. There's nobody else that's more talented than you on an annual basis. In the East, it's a shifting set of teams. Sometimes it's Tennessee, sometimes it's Florida, sometimes it's Georgia. If we expect you to win the East, you ought to win the East. And if you don't, then I don't want to hear excuses, man. Man up, own the fact that you didn't get it done, and try and make efforts and make lengths to go ahead and try and get it done in the future. That's it. Like, no one's saying you have to win all the time. But don't pass this off as it's not your fault. Don't try and tell me that this is about molding young men into champions of life the very instant it doesn't go your way. Butch Jones wants to know what the big deal with him using cliches is. It's that it's another layer of you hiding from responsibility along with the excuses that you peddle out there too. That's why we have a problem with it. That's why nobody likes it. Stop hiding from it. Step up to it. Own it. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me today, making me a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you guys. I hope you're having a good Thursday so far. Got some more stories for you. Football returns next.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You've been in a wreck.
756-6400.
You've been wrongfully fired.
756-6400.
A turkey is suing you out of the blue.
756-6400.
Confused about a business startup?
756-6400.
That's the number for you. 756-6400. Right here, right now, Chattanooga. Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. Get biz advice now. Representation to fight for your right. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Don't sit on your rights. You've got remedies. Turn your tragedy into cash. You've got the solution from estate planning all the way to probate. Act now. Top attorneys in Chattanooga are waiting to help you get relief. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Turn your tragedy into cash. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
756-6400.
I'm Thomas DeMoss, and we've got the cash. We will buy your house today. Need to sell your house? We want to buy your house, and we have the cash to do it. Call me now, 423-834-7321. That's 423-834-7321. We've been buying houses in the Chattanooga market for 10 years. We are local, and we can help. There's no obligations, only solutions. iBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. I'm Thomas DeMoss, and we've got the cash.
Does your business have enough clients? Are you confused about how to stand out in today's saturated social media market? Do you feel lost trying to navigate the maze of marketing channels which are necessary in today's marketplace? Are you fed up with spending your time and money on employees who don't perform and marketing strategies that don't produce? Then you need Cindy's Choice. Cindy will solve your marketing problems with their innovative shared marketing management concept that will allow your business to have the benefits of a full-time employee that is actually out building relationships in the community on behalf of your brand. Cindy's low monthly rate includes advertising, employee management, public relations, and creative marketing strategies that produce. Cindy can bring this all to you at a rate lower than most advertising campaigns and for much less than the cost of hiring a marketing employee. Cindy's Choice is your trusted source, and Cindy will manage it all for you.
Hi, I'm Cindy. I focus on the prospects so you can focus on the projects. Call me at 423-661-4445. That's 423-661-4445. So you can become Cindy's Choice.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing, what's important for homeowners to know?
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field line failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Hi, this is Nadia behind the green door. You've had ice cream and you've had shaved ice, but have you had snow cream? It is amazing. It's light, airy, fruity snowflakes melting on your tongue. You need to come and see us. Highway 58, green door next to Hardee's.
My name is Trevor Ashley. I'm an attorney here with the law firm McCoon, Williams, Ashley, and Stanley. We have a show on Nooga Radio called Legal Bites, where we discuss legal topics of interest to our listeners: estate planning, business formation, and business transactions. Legal Bites, 11 a.m. on Wednesday.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Charge! Get back there, you dang Yankee! Great horny toads, I'm up north. Gotta burn my boots. They touched Yankee soil. Lay down your arms and step forward, Yankee!
What's the hassle, Schmansel?
My orders from General Lee is to hold the Macy-Dixie line, and no Yankees are crossing it.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chops him off. Coming off turn number 2. Goes to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga, WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
Terror attack in Barcelona.
I've never seen panic and fear in people like that.
Tennessee Republican Bob Corker calls out President Trump.
There needs to be radical changes take place at the White House.
This is the CBS World News Roundup Late Edition. I'm Dave Barrett. It was late afternoon in the beautiful and historic Las Ramblas district in Barcelona, Spain. Normally a great place to go if you're a tourist or a local, but it wasn't today.
Heard a crashing noise, whole streets. I started hearing screaming. Everybody started to run. That's why I can describe it as all hell breaks loose. I just saw this lady laying on the ground, kind of sprawled out in blood.
American Tom Markwell was in a taxi on Las Ramblas when a white van careened onto sidewalks.
I realized he was going entirely too fast and it looked to be as if he was going left to right, hitting people at the little stands where people were shopping.
Cobb Oxford had traveled to Barcelona with the Clemson University basketball team with an exhibition game scheduled for tonight. The van crashed right outside the team's hotel.
We see it on TV all the time, and we see it in movies all the time, and for a split instant, you're going, this can't be real.
But it was. Oxford saw people panic.
They were running in front doors. They were running in nook and crannies. They were running down side streets, trying to get away from something.
He went to the front door of his hotel.
I saw a car bumper laying in the middle of the sidewalk and people scattering in all different directions. I counted 6 or 8 bodies within a block and a half.
The Clemson team is safe. Teams from Oregon State and Arizona were also at that hotel, and they're okay. But when the attack was over in Barcelona, the driver took off. He has not been found. Now, 13 people are dead. More than 100 have been injured. Those numbers may rise. In D.C., Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
We ask U.S. citizens in the area to let your loved ones know you are safe.
President Trump tweeted condolences and told the people of Spain, be tough and strong. VP Mike Pence at a stop in Panama.
The United States stands ready to assist the people of Spain and find and punish those responsible.
2 suspects have been arrested. There's also word that 2 people are dead following an explosion at a house linked to the Barcelona attack. Terrorist use of vehicles have resulted in more than 100 deaths in the past couple of years, with attacks in Nice, France, London, Berlin, and Stockholm. CBS's national security analyst Fran Townsend, what about concern here?
I think Americans ought to sort of take comfort in the fact that because the tactic is not new, in most major American cities, vehicular traffic has been restricted around large pedestrian areas and areas that are iconic. Times Square, the World Trade Center Memorial, all those places have large perimeters to prevent just such an attack.
Wall Street, the Dow fell 274. Now this.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. If you're in the market to buy a home right now, you know how challenging it is out there. You're competing against cash buyers, so it's critical that you work with a reputable, established mortgage company like Quicken Loans. By getting pre-approved with us, sellers will know that you're serious and ready to close when you make that offer. Here's one more way to get the home you want. You could buy a $150,000 home with as little as $1,500 down with our 1% down payment option. The rate today on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%, APR 4.19%. For 7 years in a row now, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation for customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. And for the 4th year in a row, they've also ranked us highest in the nation for mortgage servicing. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to QuickenLoans.com. That's 800-QUICKEN.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
After President Trump's remarks this week about the violence in Virginia, there's been criticism from his own party. Now,
Tennessee Senator Bob Corker teed off on the president after his speech in Chattanooga.
The president has not yet been able to demonstrate the stability nor some of the competence that he needs to demonstrate in order to be successful.
Corker says the president needs to take a hard look at his behavior and that the nation needs him to be successful.
We're at a point where there needs to be radical changes take place at the White House itself. It has to happen.
Bill Rakoff, CBS News, Washington.
Concern in North Carolina, says Jim Crisulo, over this symbol.
Duke University administrators have increased security after a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee was defaced. Lee's likeness is one of 10 historical figures near the main entrance to Duke Chapel, a campus landmark at the school in Durham, North Carolina. It's not far from where protesters toppled a
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Before 69-year-old Carol Gaddy held in Hamilton County Jail as a political prisoner, she refused to allow an illegal warrantless search of her home. A clash between commies and conservatives, that's what the Chattanooga police are afraid of. The rally is going to be held at Coolidge Park at 7:30 tonight by a group called Full Communism. At the same time, a group in support of a man who was fired from a local restaurant for attending the rally in Charlottesville are going to be coming. A cold corpse was found at an intersection in Ottawa Wednesday morning. Police say the body's been identified as Tiffany Page Floral, who's 21 years old. There were no visible signs of trauma. They're not sure how she died. Her body will be taken to the medical examiner's office. Hopefully they'll find a cause of death. You'd think it was Armageddon, not the eclipse. TDOT and various police agencies are warning that you should fill up your tank of gas and leave earlier if you're going to be watching the eclipse on the 21st. Hamilton County schools will be closed for the event. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
If you're taking medication for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or even diabetes, you can't afford to miss our free health seminar on Saturday, August the 19th. Our clients have been able to come off thousands of medications without diet pills, powdered meals, or shakes, or any gimmicks. Space is limited, and this will be our only seminar in Chattanooga, so call right now to reserve your space at 240-440-1379. That's 240-440-1379.
AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's fast forecast now. Temperatures getting up to 90 degrees for our evening. Overnight getting down to the 80s, about 80 degrees, and then down to 75 starting around midnight. Friday, temperatures come back up to 90, then down to 67 overnight, with rain coming in the afternoon on Friday. Conditions over the weekend looking great. Saturday, overcast, high 92, low 69. Sunday, very clear, 94 for the high, 71 for the low. Scattered thunderstorms expected next week. That's your fast forecast now.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You're listening to AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Lunch with Keon Rose is the show. Nooga Radio is the station. NoogaRadio.com is the website. The number of the show hour is 2. I could not have found a more confusing way to say that sentence, but you get my point. So, started the show by talking about the way that the Indianapolis Colts have mismanaged the existence of Andrew Luck as their franchise quarterback, which is of relevance, I believe, to Tennessee Titans fans because that division is open for their taking. Now, I think I'm going to be more conservative about how I think the Tennessee Titans are going to do. I'm a 10-6 guy. Honestly, I think 10-6 wins you most divisions in the NFL, maybe 11-5. Nobody needs to be 14-2, 15-1 usually in the NFL, and very rarely are teams that. The Patriots are that very consistently. The Steelers are capable of being that on a year-in and year-out basis, but usually nobody tends to be that. The Raiders were last year 12-4. I need to see the Raiders do it again. I'm sorry. I'm not a guy that I see the very small sample size of one football season and go, oh, yes, they're now the chosen ones. I don't think the Raiders have passed up the Chiefs as the best team in that division. I don't. And so I'm looking at this and I'm going, I don't think that the Titans are going to be a 12-4 type team. I've seen some people with those projections. I think those people are either homers or they are crazy. I think a conservative, the 10-6, okay, that the Houston Texans don't have a quarterback, haven't solved the quarterback problem. They won a lot of very close football games against also non-quarterback having teams last year. The Jaguars have Blake Bortles, and so I think that that is pretty much speaking for itself. And the Colts to me are the real reason here why the Titans can make some kind of run, because I think that they did a really good job last year, Tennessee did, of playing their out-of-divisional games incredibly well. They played a lot of high-scoring games against opponents that, honestly, I didn't think that they were going to be able to match up very well against. The game against the Packers comes to mind, in which they lit that defense on fire. Now, in fairness, it's not a very good defense, but I didn't know that the Tennessee offense could erupt like that. And so, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by their output on that. Winning the division means winning most of your divisional games. I don't see how the Titans don't beat the Jaguars 2 times. I don't see how they don't beat the Colts 2 times. And I don't see necessarily how it is that they don't at least beat the Texans once. Right? If the Texans are going to go with Deshaun Watson, I expect there to be some growing pains there. And if they're not going to go with Deshaun Watson, then that means that Tom Savage is the guy that they're relying on. And I like Savage, but I don't love Savage. Savage is not a quarterback that you should be horrified of necessarily, especially when you consider the fact that the man kind of struggles a little bit with sideline throws. But when I look at this division, I think of it as being fairly wide open for the Tennessee Titans. Again, I think that the Colts were the team that we thought were going to kind of run the division for a while. That, oh my goodness, they had Peyton Manning for the longest time. And then they got Andrew Luck, which is like winning the lottery, running out of money, and then winning the lottery again. That's what that's like. And they have absolutely mismanaged Andrew Luck over there in Indianapolis in a way that I think sort of flies in the face of the conventional wisdom that if you have bad ownership, you have a bad football team. I think sometimes you can have bad ownership, not often, but sometimes you can have bad ownership, and the ownership does not necessarily run into problems early on that expose why they are terrible. You can be bad at a job and never run into any of the problems that prove you are bad at your job. Right? Like if you have issues that only come up every so often, whatever your weakness is, that you never have to run into those problems. And I think having a franchise quarterback like a Peyton Manning, like an Andrew Luck, covers up a lot of the incompetence. Because when you describe your quintessentially bad owner in sports, when you describe quintessentially bad owners, like Jim Irsay fits the mold. Jim Irsay fits the mold of the Jerry Jones when Jerry Jones is being incredibly micromanaging. He fits the mold of Jerry Jones and Dan Snyder and whoever it is that owns the Chargers and the Reinsdorfs owning the Bulls in the NBA, who have also had a lot of bad decisions covered up by Michael Jordan. Like, you've got organizations that are run fairly poorly, and the markers of bad ownership, the markers of bad leadership tend to look very similar, like tend to look very much alike. The only difference is Jim Irsay's got his markers and got all of his problems covered up by Andrew Luck, which is the fact that when you go back, even back to the Peyton Manning years of the Indianapolis Colts, I never watched an Indianapolis Colts team that necessarily had the greatest offensive line. It was a good offensive line. And yeah, Jeff Saturday was a great center. But that whole offensive unit wasn't the greatest offensive line of all time. Peyton Manning was very good about getting the ball out of his hands quickly and not really holding on to it, not really taking a ton of sacks and a ton of damage. That a lot of sacks can be prevented by having a good quarterback. Right? That Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are two guys that I never once saw that I saw sometimes have a great offensive line, but not always. Sometimes they had pretty decent offensive lines and still look great because as quarterbacks, they are able to do things that offset that their offensive line is not necessarily the best in football. Right? So I see it happen, and I am fairly convinced that Peyton Manning hit a lot of the design flaws of the Indianapolis Colts. And that, I mean, when you talk about the greatness debate, Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, I think a lot of people hold it against Peyton Manning, that Peyton Manning played in a dome. I would hold it more against Peyton Manning, that Peyton Manning had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne that are two NFL great receivers. But when you look at the talent that Peyton Manning had around him, when you consider that he never really had that serious of a running game, he didn't have the greatest offensive line. Peyton Manning never could rely on a defense, right? Like he never had a defense that could reliably, he has a bad game, they win it. Right? I think that you do have to apply that because Tom Brady has played with some of the all-time great defenses. And that when you look at Tom Brady and the last Super Bowl that Tom Brady won, Atlanta made some hugely terrible errors on offense, and New England's defense capitalized on it. And the Super Bowl before then comes down to a Malcolm Butler interception at the goal line, that Tom Brady has been able to rely on some pretty great defenses. He has, which isn't to take away from his greatness, but I just think that that evens out the Manning-Brady debate in my mind a little bit. Manning never had that kind of defense until he got to Denver, right? Like if Peyton Manning in his prime got to play with a defense like that, I mean, how does that team not win more Super Bowls? Right? Like old Peyton Manning went to 2 Super Bowls with that defense and got a ring with 1. Can you imagine Peyton in his prime with that defense? I mean, it's amazing. It would have been amazing. It would have been amazing. And I look at it and go, okay, the Colts never did any of that for Peyton Manning. And guess what? They ain't doing it for Andrew Luck either. Only worse, Peyton Manning never had the catastrophic injury that Indianapolis had to learn how to deal with. Andrew Luck has had a catastrophic injury, and I don't care what anybody says, but when a quarterback injures his shoulder on his throwing arm, that is a catastrophic injury. And if he were to ever have some level of surgery on that, understand that surgery, you're never the same again, right? You're never the same again. And the Colts have not figured out exactly what it is that they want to do with Andrew Luck and his shoulder, and could possibly open up the division for the Tennessee Titans, not just this season, but many seasons going into the future, because the Titans are a very well-run football team at the moment. If you have not noticed, John Robinson has been doing a bang-up job with the Titans. Here's what he has done since being with the Titans. He has traded up to get Marcus Mariota. If you're in a position to get a franchise quarterback and you think the guy in front of you is the guy, you give up whatever it takes to go get him. I strongly believe that. I don't believe the teams that jump up to take a guy ever make a mistake. Ever. You could be wrong, right? Like teams have been wrong, but I don't think that that's a mistake if you honestly believe that the guy is the guy. Right? The Bears jumped up to take Trubisky, and I think it's a mistake how they did it, because I don't think they needed to jump up to get him. But the idea that they thought Trubisky was the guy, if you think he's the guy, do what it takes to get him. If you think Mariota's the guy, do what it takes to get him. If you're the Eagles and you think Carson Wentz is the guy, do what it takes to get him. I don't ever think that's a mistake. So John Robinson jumps up for Marcus Mariota. And Mariota has been showing year after year a level of development and progression. Now he's going into his third season that is encouraging and would suggest that he does have the chops to be a franchise kind of guy. So that's exciting. He's built an offensive line, and I'm talking about John Robinson again. He's built an offensive line that is the second or third best offensive line in football. He is trying to fill around Marcus Mariota the skill positions that will allow him to be able to use his arm more effectively. He drafted Corey Davis, which some people are skeptical of because he does have a history of dropping the football. He's got some pretty bad drops in college. But I don't know. That's coachable stuff. I think like the drops, I don't see a guy with bad hands. I see a guy that has such a desire to go up the field. He takes his eyes off the football before it gets into his hands. I'm sorry. That's a coaching issue. You can coach that away. Is Mike Mularkey the guy that will coach that away? I don't know. And I don't know who their wide receiver coach is to tell you if that guy is qualified enough to make that go away. But I'm saying that that's something that you can coach up. You can't coach a guy with bad hands. But Corey Davis didn't have drops, in my opinion, because he had bad hands. He's got to look the football into his hands when he catches it, though. Coachable. Got a talented guy in the draft. A very fast, strong receiver. Gives Marcus Mariota a weapon. He's building a defense. Again, I'm talking about John Robinson. He's building a defense that could be one of the better defenses in the NFL. Yes, they need to work on their secondary, but again, when you draft a guy like Adoree Jackson, that is exactly what it is that you are trying to fix. The young man out of the University of Southern California that is athletically a freak and is a ball hawk, the likes of which I haven't seen in quite a while in Tennessee. So again, like he's building a team. He's identifying the weaknesses, and he's building a very good team. The Colts have not built a good football team. The Colts have built a very bad football team and then put Andrew Luck on it, right? They drafted Andrew Luck. They have not built a football team. They haven't built an offensive line worth protecting anybody. They have not found a running back in the running game. They tried to trade for Trent Richardson, if you recall. They have good receivers. T.Y. Hilton is a guy that I like, but they also have they're small, speedy receivers, which is great for stretching the field. It's horrible for the red zone. It's bad for trying to score inside the 20s. Then on the defensive side of the football, no, nothing, nada. I think they got Levante Davis. That's it. I mean, they don't have anybody good. Where do the Colts excel outside of quarterback? Nowhere. It's arguable that they even excel at coach. It's arguable that Chuck Pagano is actually a good coach. Like it is. So I'm looking at the Colts and I'm going, this is the team, in my opinion, that if you had talked to me when they first drafted Andrew Luck and the season that Andrew Luck had as a rookie, and then every year Andrew Luck went a little bit further, and the Colts make the playoffs, and then they move a little bit further in the playoffs, and then they make it to an AFC title game, and that sort of next step was, okay, Andrew Luck might take these guys to the Super Bowl before he hits his prime, which would be alarming. The window for Andrew Luck was supposed to be a dramatically wide window where the Colts are one of the teams dominating the AFC South for the next 10 to 15 years. And instead of that window being dramatically widened, it has now been shortened. Certainly shut for this year. I don't know that they get a whole lot out of Andrew Luck this year. And we are now looking at as to how it is that they handle this situation to determine whether or not they get anything out of Andrew Luck in the next 2 or 3 years. And if Marcus Mariota becomes the guy that they hope that he can become, and he has had a couple of injuries himself, that Marcus Mariota ended his rookie season with a leg injury, and he ended his sophomore season with a leg injury. And this is a guy that we're talking about that got both of those injuries in the pocket, okay? This is not Marcus Mariota running around like an idiot. He's standing in the pocket taking these shots. So that's not good. That's something that the pocket awareness has to be a little bit better there. And just a little bit of bad luck when it comes to being hit in the leg, right? He broke his leg there. You're not going to break your leg in the same point multiple times. It heals back stronger than it did the first time. It is highly unlikely that that will be re-aggravated and re-injured. But I would like to see if there is some kind of way that the Titans can protect Marcus Mariota. I, for one, think that like using the shotgun is a very, very effective way. But Mike Mularkey, is not exactly a shotgun kind of guy. As the league goes into using the shotgun more and more, Mike Mularkey is somehow trying to find a way to use the shotgun less and less and go back to the way that people used to play football, which does not work. It doesn't work, okay? When the world changes, when the world innovates, don't try and go backwards, go forwards. If they make a car with power steering, don't go back to your car without power steering. I mean, what Mike Mularkey is essentially doing is trying to go back to the Model T. It's not going to necessarily work out for him, and I can't imagine a situation where we reliably have Mike Mularkey as the head coach of this football team forever, because I just think that some of the decisions that he makes in terms of not wanting to advance, not wanting to progress, not wanting to move forward, not wanting to build the football team into something that is exceptional, but instead he has his own idea as to what it is that football looks like, whether or not football still works that way. And he's just going to do it, and no one is going to stop him, for he is Mike Mularkey. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. This season, Hard Knocks follows the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I really wanted the Chargers to be the team that it followed, because that is a team that is going to fall apart. The Chargers are trying to move into LA. They've become the Los Angeles Chargers. They were previously the San Diego Chargers. They kicked off their Fight for LA campaign. And one of the reasons why they moved out of San Diego, or so the ownership alleges, is that the San Diego fans were not showing up to games, right? They were not supporting the football team in the way that you would expect a football team to be supported, given that football is America's most popular sport. And when you look at the way that they have come out to try and gain support in Los Angeles, it's clear that they are drawing less fans in LA than they ever did in San Diego. Granted, a lot of it too was the blackout stuff, that you go, okay, like I can't support the team by watching them on TV because they black out the game in my city. And so you end up watching a lot less Charger games, which means that you end up supporting them even less, which means you are less excited, which means you are less likely to go out and watch them play a game. And the fact that the Chargers never understood that was weird to me. And the fact that they thought the solution was, let's move to Los Angeles, where the Rams already have a fan base, where there's still a small contingency of Raider fans who still live in Los Angeles and root for the now Las Vegas Raiders. And you are somehow thinking you're the Chargers, who have never really been an LA team. You're just going to move into LA and somehow get fans. They're trying to get a stadium that holds 27,000 seats. But your last preseason game, your Fight for LA, you drew just 21,000. To be clear, the Rams got 89,000 when they debuted in Los Angeles in a preseason game. The team you are trying to dethrone as the king of the city is somehow drawing almost 3 times as many people as you are. And I should not need to tell you, I mean, it's more than 3 times as many. I shouldn't have to tell you how deeply problematic it is. Like, this entire LA Chargers thing is going to fail so spectacularly that, to me, that is my favorite storyline of the entire NFL season, is if the Chargers are actually good, then this ends my moment of funniness. But if they're bad, and there's no reason to expect the Chargers to really be like greater than 9-7. If they're spectacularly bad, though, this is one of those things where that they're going to be the running punchline of the league. They're going to be the running punchline of the league without being the worst team in the league. And I don't know that that's even possible. Because it's not like the Rams are good. It's not like the 49ers are going to be good, or the Browns, or the Jaguars. Like, there's a number of teams that will be worse than the Chargers. I don't know that there are going to be very, very many teams that are going to be funnier than the Chargers, though. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about the humor and laughing at people's misfortunes. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Kevin Durant and LeBron James weigh in on the president. They don't like him very much. Next.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
Before 69-year-old Carol Gaddy held in Hamilton County Jail as a political prisoner, she refused to allow an illegal warrantless search of her home. A clash between commies and conservatives, that's what the Chattanooga police are afraid of. The rally is going to be held at Coolidge Park at 7:30 tonight by a group called Full Communism. At the same time, a group in support of a man who was fired from a local restaurant for attending the rally in Charlottesville are going to be coming. A cold corpse was found at an intersection in Ottawa Wednesday morning. Police say the body's been identified as Tiffany Page Floral, who's 21 years old. There are no visible signs of trauma. They're not sure how she died. Her body will be taken to the medical examiner's office. Hopefully they'll find a cause of death. You'd think it was Armageddon, not the eclipse. TDOT and various police agencies are warning that you should fill up your tank of gas and leave early if you're going to be watching the eclipse on the 21st. Hamilton County schools will be closed for the event. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's fast forecast now. Temperatures getting up to 90 degrees for our evening. Overnight, getting down to the 80s, about 80 degrees, and then down to 75 starting around midnight. Friday, temperatures come back up to 90, then down to 67 overnight, with rain coming in the afternoon on Friday. Conditions over the weekend looking great. Saturday, overcast, high 92, low 69. Sunday, very clear, 94 for the high, 71 for the low. Scattered thunderstorms expected next week. That's your fast forecast now.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Jim lost 84 pounds of fat in just 3 months. 84 pounds of fat in just 3 months without a single powdered meal or shake, no diet pills, no gimmicks. He is a cardiac nurse, and he knew that if he didn't do something, he would be the next one laying on the table getting stents in his heart. RSVP now to join us for our free health and wellness seminar at 240-440-1379. This will be our only seminar in Chattanooga, 240-440-1379.
Hi, this is Eric Pelton. Taxes, accounting, business advice. I've got a neat brochure, 12 ways to improve your business profits. Come on by for a free consultation and we'll give you a copy. E.J. Pelton Company, 332-3339.
When you shop online for a weapon, you avoid the sales tax. But now you can buy local at Shooter Supply, and you'll do just as well, if not better. Here's how. 10% off of ammo and accessories, or 20% off of the handgun permit class, or you can get 20% off the range membership. You deduct the taxes online, and at Shooters, you do even better. And let Shooter's consignment program turn that rifle into cold, hard cash. Shooter Supply, Hickson. Shooters Supply, Hickson.
I have the best steak selection in town. The name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
This is Thomas DeMoss with Keller Williams Realty. I am a realtor in Chattanooga. We list and sell homes, work with buyers, work with home sellers. I have been involved in real estate for over 10 years. My background is as a real estate investor. That is what I bring to the table, is that real estate investor mindset. My job is to help you sell your house for the most money, employing the best marketing strategy and walking you through what can be a rather stressful process. So we are encouraging people who are on the fence or even thought about selling their house to give us a call. There's no obligation. We're just here to kind of have a conversation, let people know what the process is like, what the market is like, what values they can expect to receive. We work with buyers as well. I also have a buyer's agent that works exclusively with my buyers because we want to give our clients as much attention as we can. My cell phone number is 423-364-0028. Our website is northriverpropertygroup.com. That's northriverpropertygroup.com. We'd love for you guys to call us.
Hi, I'm David Crockett, and I'm here with David Tulis, and we're having a little discussion over who's the number one Nooga centrist. If you want to keep up with free market ideas, then read Nooganomics.com. David Tulis, the blogger with the biggest pen.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
Plus with Keon Rose and AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. And Floyd Mayweather. I'm going to talk about Floyd again. I'm going to talk about Floyd and or Conor every day leading up to that fight because I have to. We're getting closer, and with a greater frequency, I find the need to remind you on a daily basis. If you pay for this fight, you are a sucker. You've been warned. You've been warned, okay? This fight is an exhibition. It's a spectacle. It is not a fight. It's not a fight. Conor McGregor will not touch Floyd Mayweather. I was watching some old Mayweather fights, and guys that have really given Floyd Mayweather trouble, Marcus Maidana and Zab Judah. These guys are brawlers, okay? These guys walk into the ring and throw a heavy amount of punches. Marcus Maidana in that first fight against Floyd Mayweather that he had, Maidana threw 221 punches. Okay? 221 punches. If Conor McGregor is not willing to throw 221 punches, he doesn't have a chance. Right? Zab Judah was also incredibly active in that fight as well. And I think that it helps Conor McGregor that he's a southpaw fighter. It does. I mean, like, that does give him something to hold on to in this fight, that he's a southpaw, and that Floyd, because of Floyd using a shell defense, Floyd has a weakness to the southpaw left hand, which is Conor's most deadly punch, right? Like Conor, the left straight from Conor McGregor is as deadly a thing as there is in sports. Like, he puts that hand on your face, most guys go down. The issue here is, did you all watch the Pacquiao fight? You all watched the same Pacquiao fight that I watched, right? Manny Pacquiao threw a lot of punches. Didn't land very many. The fourth round and fifth round of that fight, to me, were Pacquiao rounds. And Pacquiao launched an assault of punches, just a flurry of punches. Conor's not that. Conor is a counter puncher, too. He is relatively low in terms of punching output. He does not throw a ton of punches. Right? Even in if you just take into account that he's a mixed martial artist and he wouldn't throw a ton of punches anyway, Conor doesn't throw a ton of strikes, period. Because Conor's a counter guy. He uses a karate stance. He's a counter guy. The fact of the matter is that favors Floyd, right? Like, one of the reasons why Canelo Alvarez got picked apart by Floyd Mayweather, despite the fact that he is the much larger, stronger fighter, is that Canelo Alvarez is Mexican and therefore technically sound, right? A technically sound boxer. The Mexicans are very proud of their boxing heritage, that Canelo Alvarez never intended to show up and just be a brawler. He tried to outbox Floyd, and you can't. You cannot outbox Floyd. It's not possible. Okay, he's the best at it. And so despite the fact that Canelo was bigger and stronger and probably would have had more success attempting to brawl Floyd, he tried to outbox him, couldn't be done. Floyd Mayweather picks him apart in the later rounds. In fact, this is you look at a history of Floyd Mayweather fights, and I went back and watched a bunch of them the other day. I watched the Alvarez, I watched the Pacquiao, I watched Zab Judah, I watched Miguel Cotto, I watched Victor Ortiz. Floyd, as the fight gets on, he's got better conditioning than most of the people that he's fighting against, and he starts to outbox you once he figures out your timing, once he figures out your range. He starts to outbox you. People have gotten to Floyd early, but they haven't been able to put him down, and he figures you out. He figures you out. I'm telling you. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. So I'm telling you, Conor doesn't have a chance. Conor does not have a chance, okay? He's fought against other southpaws and beaten them. He's fought against Manny Pacquiao, who is the greatest southpaw of this generation, and he's beat him, and he beat him soundly. You're telling me Conor McGregor has a chance? You're crazy. You're nuts. And Conor does not even throw enough punches, I don't think, to truly scare and truly damage Floyd. right? I don't see it. You try and box Floyd from the outside, you're going to end up losing. And then on top of that, Conor doesn't have the stamina, right? Around the 9-minute mark of both of his Nate Diaz fights, Conor McGregor was winded. He was gassed. He started to slow down. That's obviously problematic because around the 9-minute mark, that's around three rounds into a 12-round fight. If you're going to start to get winded in round 3, you don't stand a chance. But anyhow, just reminding you, you're a sucker, and those are all the reasons why you would be a sucker if you wanted to watch this fight for the fight. If you want to watch it for the spectacle, go watch the press conferences that they did. They're already online for free. There's no need to pay for the spectacle that this fight is about to be. They're not even selling the tickets in the arena well enough. And yet, Floyd Mayweather is going to make $25 million just for the clothing choices that he makes in this fight. $25 million. Just for choosing the clothes. Which is why if you think that Floyd Mayweather is a bad person and you want to boycott him, and that's the reason why you want to boycott this fight, I understand. I'm never telling you who to boycott and who not to boycott. I'm just saying you're not stopping him from making money, right? Like you want to vote with your dollars, but you're not stopping. He's been printing money. He prints money for Showtime. That's just the way it is. So, Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. I was looking at some videos of Michael Porter Jr., this Michael Porter Jr. fella, who is in college. People like Michael Porter Jr. He was playing at a Pro-Am tournament, the Jamal Crawford Seattle Pro Amateur Tournament. He looks like a beast. I just wanted to toss that in there. I am transitioning over to basketball talk, so this is somewhat relevant. But after the events of Charlottesville, obviously, a guy like LeBron James is going to speak up because LeBron James has already pegged himself as the pseudo-political character. That I don't know that LeBron James wants to necessarily insert himself with any real assertiveness into the political conversation. But I do think that LeBron James has enough awareness to understand that when he says something on political conversations, people listen. People care about what it is that he has to say. And so I think he's very careful with how he chooses his words. I think he's very careful with these kinds of things. He called Donald Trump a so-called president, which I understand why a lot of people would be disappointed in Donald Trump. Did he denounce the KKK and the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists? He did. I think that he should have done it faster. And also, I really think that quote about there being blame on both sides, really a bad quote. Really a bad quote. How about maybe don't go with blame on both sides when one side got hit with a car? Try not to do that, right? It's not a good look for him. It's not a good look. And if you are someone who is black in America or someone who is a person of color in America and you want your president to denounce the KKK and denounce neo-Nazis and denounce all these groups, well, here's what you want. You want him to do this as quickly as humanly possible, which he did not. Right? Like the statement came out later after he was like, there's blame on both sides on Twitter. And then he denounces them the next day. And then he kind of equivocates both groups together, which they're not the same. I'm sorry, they're not the same. Any neo-Nazis are not the same as Black Lives Matter. Right? Like it's not. There's nothing to equate here. Okay, there isn't. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing to equate. There's no equal footing here, right? And understandably, all the Antifa people are just insane. But this is not equivocal in any sense of the way, right? But he tried to equivocate them, and he seems annoyed that he has to denounce the KKK and neo-Nazis and white supremacists all the time. And that's the other thing that I feel like as the president can't be an issue with you. Denounce it as many times as you have to, as many times as you want. Wake up out of bed in the morning and denounce them again, just because you woke up. You shouldn't really be annoyed that you have to keep saying no. to white supremacists. You really don't. Like, this should not be an annoying thing. This shouldn't be some kind of chore to you. Say no. Say no all the time. Say no as often as you can. Say no when they tell you to say no. Say no when you feel like saying no. Just always say no. But he seems annoyed that he has to say no. Why? Why? Like, to me, if anybody tried to equate me to any group for which I not only thought was wrong, and not only thought was detrimental to America, but a group that I found to be truly disgusting, and I really feel like everybody ought to find white supremacists disgusting in just the worst way, then I would denounce them just because. And so, yes, when you are a black person in America, you are disappointed by that. You're disappointed by that aspect of it. I will say this, though, about LeBron James saying that. I don't know exactly what good it does, and I don't know that calling the president the so-called president does anything either. He is the actual president, whether you like it or not. Right? And this is not even a respect the office thing. That's the actual fact that when you refer to the president, you are referring to Donald J. Trump. To call him the so-called president somehow implies that he's not actually the president, and that he's not actually supposed to be the president. He won the Electoral College, which by the rules of America says that that guy gets to be president. Don't really care what the popular vote says, because we've been running on the electoral system all the time. It's rare that you lose the popular vote but win the Electoral College, but it has happened before. It happened. He's the president. And I don't know that those words get to be particularly helpful there. I don't think that it soothes the pain of the people who suffered in Charlottesville. I don't think that it helps those who are disgruntled with Trump. I don't think that it says anything of note. All it says is that you don't like him as president, but that's not up for debate. He's the president. What is that supposed to do? What is that supposed to actually mean? And I think LeBron James, for as much as he likes to have his finger in many different pies, right? Like LeBron wants to be in entertainment. He's already dominating sports. I think he wants to have a finger in politics. I think he wants to be a mogul in business and is very well on his way to doing that as well. I think LeBron wants to be in a lot of different things. But I think that the acknowledgement that he has, that a lot of athletes have, is that when you're a brand, you don't want to get too political. You don't want to say too much. And LeBron has been very good at saying things without saying much. He did openly campaign with Hillary Clinton. I suppose that is saying a thing. But he's been very good about, after the police shootings, he went up on the stage at the ESPY Awards with Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade, basically the Banana Boat crew. He went on the ESPYs with those guys and talked about police brutality in America in a way that says, yeah, we don't like this very much. And that's all that they said. Well, yeah, nobody likes it. What do you mean? There's not a contingency of people that were like, yeah, police shootings in America, I'm a fan. Where are these people? Why did we need the four of you to stand up on the stage and condemn it? That was something that I took for granted. That's something that should have been obvious. And yes, you want to say that the violence has to stop, but you haven't said anything truly worth saying out loud. You said the same thing that everybody else was saying. Good for you. You said something without really saying anything. Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. On the other side of it, Kevin Durant, who has decided that he just no longer cares what people think about him as a human being, possibly because when you decide to go to the Golden State Warriors, who are already stacked and already loaded, and you help them win a title, and people call you a snake all year and call you a cupcake and make fun of your injury and make fun of your mother. Like, there is a certain level of, actually, I just don't care what y'all think, that starts to happen. Kevin Durant, despite the fact that he is not, I don't think, trying to say things politically, is saying things in a way that actually is more effective. And he has said that if the president were to invite the Golden State Warriors to the White House, that he would not go. He would not be in attendance. And I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, because players have done this before. If there's a president that they don't like or are not in support of, they have not gone, right? Not a mystery that Tom Brady, not a big fan of Barack Obama. Tom Brady won, I believe, 2 Super Bowls during the presidency of Barack Obama. Tom Brady went to none of those White House meetings. Didn't go to either one. And didn't go to the one to see Trump either. Because Tom Brady knows how to play the politics game, which is to stay out entirely. Nothing hurts your brand more as an NFL quarterback than somehow being involved in politics. I think in the NBA, because the NBA is predominantly black, there is a certain level of counterculture and there's a certain level of rage against the machine that is allowed that I don't think is quite as permitted in the NFL. Plus, the NFL does not necessarily promote guys speaking their minds in that particular kind of way anyway. So Tom Brady choosing to butt out of all sides of any political issue helps his own brand. But when you look at the fact that, like, Brady just wasn't, and again, this is not something that he's ever said publicly. Like, this has had to be like teased out from people who know Tom Brady and then turn around and tell the media, Tom Brady was just not a big fan of Obama and didn't go to the White House. And I don't really blame Tom Brady for that. Like, if you don't like the president, you don't have to go meet him. Like, nothing says you have to go shake his hand. And that's not being disrespectful of the office. And that's not being disrespectful of the guy to just say, you know what? I didn't vote for you, and I didn't vote for you because I don't like your ideals or I don't like what you stand for. So I'm just gonna back out of this one. I think the issue comes is with Kevin Durant saying that he's not going, and the NBA being the league that it is, the NBA being a league which is predominantly black, and I imagine predominantly not in favor of the way that Donald Trump handled the post-Charlottesville events, which I mentioned earlier, the not denouncing the KKK and David Duke and white supremacists fast enough, and not feeling happy, really, to do it all the time. Like, literally, any time that it comes up as an issue, just say no. Like, even Steve Bannon, who people just generally smear his name all over the place on a daily basis, denounce them faster and more harshly than Trump did. And that's the thing. That's the thing. It's the speed and the desire with which you do it that people are looking at and going, yeah, it doesn't look like you really want to say no. I mean, I could be wrong about that. I could need to get my ears and eyes checked. That's perfectly possible, but it just doesn't seem like saying no is at the top of your agenda here. And that's what we're looking for. This is the most important thing that is happening in America right now. We need you to be on the front lines of this and to be like, say no. We don't need our former president to denounce these people before you do. And you tweet more than he does. Right? And so, yes, people are disappointed. I think reasonably disappointed. I don't think it's unfair that they're disappointed. And I don't think that it's unfair for Kevin Durant to be disappointed. My issue here at this point is, like, if you're Donald Trump, do you even invite the Warriors? I think you have to invite them. I just don't think that all of them are going to show up. I don't. And that I don't know which is a worse look. If you invite them and they don't show up, that they use declining your invitation as a protest, or if you don't invite them at all. Right? I think you just kind of have to put the ball in their court, no pun intended, and just say, you know what, whatever they decide to do, they decide to do. And then, and here's the kicker, say nothing about it. Say nothing about it at all. But to me, and this is just my own personal opinion, if you get a chance to meet the president, meet the president. If you think that the president doesn't care about you, doesn't hear you, doesn't see you, meet the president. Talk to the president. Tell the president your concerns, right? Maybe that's not the time or place to do it, but I would try. I would say better to go to the office and talk to the guy when you have an opportunity to shake his hand than to say, no, I'm not going. I don't like him. Because what does that fix? What does that do? I'm not entirely certain what all that helps. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day, listening to my blathering and my blathering on. Remember, don't listen to Butch Jones's preseason excuses. And remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch, and I'll see you all in 24 hours.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
You've been in a wreck.
756-6400.
You've been wrongfully fired.
756-6400.
A turkey is suing you out of the blue.
756-6400.
Confused about a business startup?
756-6400.
That's the number for you. 756-6400. Right here, right now, Chattanooga. Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. Get biz advice now. Representation to fight for your right. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Don't sit on your rights. You've got remedies. Turn your tragedy into cash. You've got the solution from estate planning all the way to probate. Act now. Top attorneys in Chattanooga are waiting to help you get relief. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
Call now. Top flight legal help awaits. What are you waiting for? That's 756-6400. Turn your tragedy into cash. Act now. No out of pocket. You don't pay a dime until we win, so win with us.
756-6400.
756-6400.
I'm Thomas DeMoss, and we've got the cash. We will buy your house today. Need to sell your house? We want to buy your house, and we have the cash to do it. Call me now, 423-834-73